Hi everyone and welcome back to another video with me Shruti. You're watching Living Our Ascension. So in today's video, I want to address something that I was speaking about with some people recently, and someone actually contacted me about my services, and they were asking, I was having a conversation with them, and they referred to the fact that they've been running from pillar to post for the past 10 years, and they've been doing a lot of different kinds of spiritual practices like Vipassana and yoga, Hatha yoga and stuff, and they wanted to know about their spiritual progress, why it's taking so long, and kind of like something along these lines is what they were saying. But it's not important what this particular person was saying. This is just an example of the kind of questions or feedback that I get from people that I've interacted with. So I thought that this would make a good video for my viewers. And what I really wanted to address in this is that often we can have these perceptions that the spiritual process, it takes a certain time to complete, like the enlightenment process. People can often have this perception. You may or may not even realize it yourself, but it might be inside of you, when you really think about it, when you get to the bottom of it, that you have this perception that it takes years of discipline and of spiritual practice to get to a certain level of being. And as long as we have these set beliefs about something, we kind of make it our reality, and it doesn't have to be true. And where it comes from is the fact that in previous ages perhaps it did take a while for us to come into our spirituality, because the earth energies were different. So in every video I keep repeating this in one way or another. The energies of earth now are different from what they were before. Every yuga, every age has a different potential. We're working with something different. So systems like yoga and other ancient systems are brilliant. They came from our forefathers, and not just humans that attained a certain level of spiritual progress within their own body. But if you go further back, it actually comes from different star systems, beings that were present on the earth from different star systems, and they brought this gift of spiritual technology, that they then fit into the what works best for the human body. And that's why then they have these breathing practices and everything that are perfect for every muscle, every chakra, and that's all that is great, but that is just one aspect. So this is just ancient wisdom, and I have the utmost respect for ancient wisdom, as I keep speaking about it also. But the other side of spirituality is also progress. It's so for example, a lot of the Eastern systems, like in China, in India, and many others that I may not even be aware of, there's a lot of focus on these ancient traditions, the ancient practices, and this is all, like I keep saying, this is all great. But the West, for example, has a lot of focus on progress, on evolution, on kind of this cutting edge technologies and things like that. It has more to do with the future, in a sense. And the thing is that, one is not better than the other. We need both. And often, because I'm from India, and people from India can have this perception, I've seen, because there's a lot of, and again, I'm not saying that that's the perception of the person who I was speaking to today. They just inspired me to make this video. But I've seen that there's a lot of people, who from India, because we've had such a rich tradition of spirituality, and there's all these different systems that exist. If you're looking for it, you know where to go, because there's so many different kinds of things that are available to you, different tools. And while that can be a great thing, sometimes it holds us back also when we overdo just one thing. So it's like there's all of these practices that are set out for you, and you keep doing them. For example, if a person just involves themselves in doing lots of yoga, but they're not in touch with really what's they're not going deep within. They're just practicing the yoga as like a ritual or a practice, and maybe they're trying really hard. I'm not saying that people don't try, or they're just being lazy or something like that, but I'm just saying that discipline is only one factor, and perhaps they haven't had enough guidance about how to really get in touch with their inner teacher. Because when you're in touch with your inner teacher, your own inner guru, that's when we don't need these other teachers as much. Like for example, even the work that I do help people. I'm a spiritual guide, but my job, I'm never thinking that I want to be there with them the whole time, and they should need me, and that I'm always present with them. It's more about just assisting people to get in touch with their own inner guidance system. So the assistance that I provide is not to teach them, to give them wisdom that I'm channeling as much. It has more to do with igniting their own remembrance, igniting their own higher self to come through. And so even all the techniques and everything that I use have to do with that, have to do with enabling the other person, empowering the other person to get in touch with their own power, so that the next time that they have a new question, because the human will always have new questions, as long as we are developing, we are growing, we are progressing, there will be something new or the other. There'll be a new challenge, there'll be a new situation, and you will want new answers. And each time that you want this, it should be that we are able to come to our own self, and the guidance comes from there. And of course there's external resources that help us after that, but the first step is the only time that it really opens up for us in the external. And even if, let's say, you get this guidance, or suddenly a certain kind of a class comes to you, this idea or this information, you see it in a newspaper or you see a flyer, the only reason that happens in our external reality is because we've gone deep enough first within, to ask that question, to really be open to it. And through our inner self, through our higher self, is how that's made possible in the external. So the first step always, and the most important step, is to get in touch with your inner self, your higher self. And when it comes to that, it's not something that has to be long, tedious and hard. So if you have those perceptions within yourself that the spiritual progress, like, it takes a while to happen, and like I began saying, which I don't think I completed, but in past ages the potential was different, and it was a denser energy, you can say, on the planet. And so it perhaps you needed more, there was more of a focus on mastering the physical, on remembering what we are, because we're here in this physical body on this planet, and to really work with that darkness, that void, that feeling of emptiness within, of not remembering. And so it was a longer process because of that. But now we're at a different place in when it comes to the light frequencies, when it comes to a place in the universe, because it's always moving. It's a different potential, that there's more of an acceleration, a speeding up that's happening. So it doesn't apply anymore. If you're used to these more traditional systems, you don't have to have the perception that to attain a certain level of enlightenment, I have to go through certain processes, I have to go through a certain number of years, or just let all of that be. Whatever you want is here for you now. If you really, really want it to be fully blown open, and be fully open to spirit, you can do it in 1 second. That's all it takes, really. It's like it can happen in a snap if you want it. But the question is that what you want? So in spirituality, that's what we work with. What the higher self is always there. It's like it's natural to you. It's the most natural way of being. So all of these practices, yoga, any kind of spiritual practices, they all have to do with the breath, and becoming one with the breath, and allowing the breath to come in and merge seamlessly with the body, to not, just to be able to take it in, to allow it to flow fully through the body, through all of the chakras, and not have any blockages in its flow, so that we are this pure conduit for spirit, because through the breath the breath is a physical thing, so for example, we know that there's air and it's moving through the body. We can even scientifically prove it. That's at the physical level. But at a higher level, that is consciousness moving through you, at an energetic level and an even higher level. And so when we are not allowing it to fully flow through, that means that there's some blockages in the body. And really, that's all that enlightenment is. When we fully become actually human, that's all it is, that we are just breathing. That's all we need to do. Our existence, in itself is this radiant light that we are, just like the sun. It doesn't need to do anything. The sun just needs to be like it's just itself, and it just radiates this light that comes to it from consciousness, and it's just beaming that out. And everything, more life is sustained because of it, because it's just so generous and giving of its light. That's all it needs to do. It needs to show up, and like every morning the sun comes out. That's all it needs to do. It just needs to be itself. So the human potential is that as well, and that's all enlightenment is. It's the most natural thing. It's what you are naturally. You already have it. You are your higher self. There is no other way to be. But the only reason we don't experience it is because we have all of these things placed in front of it. Like we think that it'll take a certain time, or I need to be a certain way in order to be enlightened, and all of those perceptions. So I would say that if you have such perceptions about enlightenment, that is first of all, that is the main thing. Any practices that you are doing, because this person, for example, also said that they've tried everything and anything that worked, they do it on a regular basis and they try it, and yet basically I think they wanted to know why is the spiritual progress not happening as fast as they would want, or they just desire more in general. And I would say that if you're at that stage, because the process of coming into a higher self, which is the process of enlightenment, is just it happens through different kinds of phases. So we need different things at different times. So it's not that it's just there's this set rule. Yes, there's a certain path that everybody follows that is the same, but the process of releasing and coming into your own, it's like a different journey for everyone. So what you need at different times will be different. So experiment with that. And also, if there's any things that you are doing, especially these routines that you have followed for really long, and they're somehow not working for you as much as you would like, or there's some sort of stagnation there, even if it's just for a while, you can, let it be for a while. It doesn't mean, I'm not saying that you have to label it as something bad or something that didn't work or failed. But just if something is not working for you, it means that there needs to be more space in your life created for something different for the now. And sometimes we need to stop doing what we have known, or we need to reduce it, whatever feels right within you. But you don't have to do something just because you believe it's right, and it doesn't actually feel good in the body, but just because you have this belief that this is so if you find yourself doing that, whoever is watching, then just let it be for a while. You don't have to try and be a good person or a spiritual person, because often we can have these ideas of what that means, and that is exactly what stops us from just being. Spirituality is just being. It's just breathing. That's it. If you just allow yourself to fully breathe through any situation, that's all you need to be, and it's the highest service that you can actually do on the planet. It's the most selfless thing that you can do. So I would say that, that if you think that it's a hard, tedious process in any way, then that is the problem in itself. So one thing that you can do is stop those activities that you have been doing. Just take a break from them for a while, try something different, or just do nothing. Maybe that's what you need, just to be with yourself outside of all of these labels that you've attached yourself with, or identifications. And then the second thing I would say, which is probably the most important, is that if there's a perception that you have recognized that where you're saying something is hard, nothing in life should be hard. You shouldn't be doing anything that's hard. Things are challenging. Of course, life is not easy. There are some things that are challenging, but we're not supposed to do something that's hard. Like, even if for example, let's say if I don't know how to climb a mountain, but I really have this desire within me, it's this passion that stirs me from within, and it's something, it'll be pleasurable. And the steps that I should take, like on the first day, I shouldn't just go and just climb, this thing that's really hard for me to climb, that I don't have the techniques for. But whatever I can accomplish, something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone but gives me that excitement, I should be taking those steps, because it's, there's no stagnation in that. It's something a little bit challenging for me, it's new, but I'm doing it. But at the same time, I'm not, I don't have this huge goal just to finish it in one day. So that's when you can fully enjoy the process. When you're working with the unknown zone, there's some growth for you there. But at the same time, you don't have these impossible standards. And life is about enjoying. So if you have a perception that anything in your life, whether it's spiritual work, whether it's relationships, anything, let it be anything in your life is too hard, or it takes too long, or it's too tedious, anything that's in front of you now is there for a reason. And so perhaps what is needed most for you is just to release the idea that it's hard. And because when we place a certain label on it, that, oh, this is hard, or this takes a certain amount of time, or this is what I need to do, that's when we stop ourselves from seeing the truth of what that is. So when we release those ideas and we just stay with it, see it as it is, and just be with it, that's what enjoyment means, that you are just with the thing in front of you, then your relationship to it changes, and you will start to see it as it is in the moment. And in the moment, then you can respond to it the way that you want, instead of whatever you think is right or whatever you are used to. So I would say that the number one thing is to release these ideas, that whatever you have now is a problem, or whatever is in front of you is too hard, or too anything else. Just be with it and see it for what it is, allow that process to happen. And anything that you're doing spiritually or otherwise should be something that brings you joy, from within. And it's very challenging, the process of purification, especially in the beginning, when we are releasing all these layers, we are getting to know ourselves. It's challenging, but that doesn't mean it's not exciting. It doesn't mean it's not full of life, and it doesn't mean that we have to think that it's long and hard. It can be anything that we want it to be, like I said before, you already are, your higher self. You are already enlightened. You are already your God self. You just are. Like, there's no other way to be. That is the truth of you. So, but what you experience in your life, the experiences that you go through, that you are, creating, that's up to you. So whether you actually experience what you truly are or not is what you are choosing in every moment. So there's nowhere to actually go or be. There's nowhere else to go and be. There's no other person that you are here to become. You already are all of that. And that is the process, and when we actually know that, when we apply it to small situations in our life, then there's this big release and relief that happens, that, oh, I don't need to be a certain way. I don't need to do certain things. I just need to relax with this and just be present with, whatever it is that's in front of me. And that is, the beginning of actual spirituality, or the beginning of coming into a higher self, because your higher self is what you are in your highest truth, and it is experienced by yourself and others when we just relax and we have no preconceived notions. So allow for that in your life, and of course certain spiritual practices can help you get there, but that is the main thing. If there's any, and I said to this person as well that that if any spiritual practices that you are doing, they should be making you see that that the higher self is what you are, that your inner guidance system, it is what you are, rather than making you see that, oh, it takes so many years, or you have to do this amount of work before you're worthy of it. That's not how it goes. True spirituality, usually because of our own perceptions that we have attached of it, that's why we can have certain ideas that a certain system takes a certain amount of time. For example, this person said that, because they were speaking to me about my own sessions that I offer online, and they were saying, oh, so how many sessions would we need, etc. And they were saying, because, for example, Vipassana, just to work with one issue, like emotional or energetic blockage, that, when we work with that, it took like about 10 sessions just to do one, and so therefore it takes a long time. But it doesn't have to. It can take a long time if that's what you want it to be. Of course, you are entitled to this experience. But also, when I work with people, for example, that's what I was explaining to this person, is that I don't follow any system. Like, I'm not affiliated with any kind of spiritual practices, that are traditional, and I respect all of them. But the process of really coming in touch with your own breath, your own higher self, is very simple. At the same time, you can have elaborate practices for it, and they might work for you, and they will all bring out different sides and help you to become an expert in that. But the actual process is just very simple. It's just about breathing. It's just about getting in touch with all of those. It's simply just getting into those blockages where we are with life in one form or another, whether that's a person or a situation, and we feel, like we're not allowing the breath to fully flow, and we find that place. We just go inside it, and we, just relax in it, just be ourselves in it, and see that there's no fear there, and that's it. The process of enlightenment is just relaxation. That's where it begins. It's really as simple as that. We allow the higher self to come through in areas where we haven't before. And when we do that enough, again and again, through repetition, the body starts remembering it. Even if you do it fully, penetrating one issue in your life, you'll see how it automatically starts affecting many different things, many different areas of your life. And I can see this very physically as well when I'm working with people, especially through the, inner child work, inner child program that I have, because it relates to this emotional healing, energetic healing. Often we will go into one area in the body, like one part of the body. And when you penetrate deep enough, all of these different areas will suddenly light up that we didn't even know existed. And then, the person then wants to go into them and do the same thing. So this is how it is. Like, even if you do it a few times, you will know how to do it yourself. And then you can make a practice out of it if you want. But I like to also connect it to our everyday life and not just use it, as a meditation or this idea of doing spiritual work. Like, in the morning I wake up and I meditate, and then there's the rest of my day when I'm going to work. And it's not like that. It's all integrated and all together. It's how you're meeting life in every moment, whether it's through a person, whether it's simply through breathing or any activity you're doing, whether it's creativity, whatever it might be. So it's all one. And yeah, I don't want to keep going on in this video, but I just wanted to, because the title of the video is about, should the spiritual process take long? And no, it doesn't have to. It can be anything that you want it to be. It's just about what you are ready to embrace in the moment. Really, the spiritual process, all it is simply breathing. All it is simply showing up as yourself. It's as simple as that. And how do we know that, something is right for us, whether it's an activity or a spiritual practice? The way that we know it's right for us is, we will feel an excitement for it in the now. It shouldn't be a burden, something that I know I should do, that I need to do. It should be something that you're excited about. Even if it's, something very small. So start with something small that you are excited about, be honest with yourself and just commit to that. So discipline is one aspect of it, discipline is important. But also it's important to be creative and to be spontaneous. So sometimes when we are just doing a certain practice for really long, like yoga, or anything it might be, it can just become more physical, where you're doing certain poses and you have perfected things to a certain level, but maybe you're not breathing as deep as you can. Often the most effective exercises are those where we are breathing a certain way, like we are one with our breath, and then less effort is even needed in our exercises. Like sometimes people are wanting to lose weight, or they want to build certain muscles in certain areas. or maybe you're a dancer or something, and you want your body to be flexible in a certain way, or you're working with a certain group of muscles, whatever it might be, or a certain movement that you like a certain dance move. And it all has to do with just this flow, allowing this seamless flow. And if you are breathing right, if you are fully present in that moment and in that area, and you're allowing breath to just flow through, that does all of the work for you. Most of the work is done there. And often you can achieve much more with little. Like, you don't need to do hours and hours of practice, or you don't need to exercise as much as other people. Just those little actions will achieve much more, because you're doing them right. Because again, they have to do with the breath and being one with it. Being conscious, being present is everything. It's the first thing. Just in the same way that, like, if you have two different people working in an office, and one of them is present with their intelligence, with they're just aware and open to everything that people are saying, and they can be fully present with them, they can do their work much more effectively than someone who spends hours and hours, let's say, or they're very skilled, but then they're very scattered. Like, they're not able to be present with the situation at hand, with whatever's happening in the moment. Like, there's people meeting them, or the boss requires a certain thing, and they can't fully be present. They can spend much more time than the first person, but that it doesn't need to be that. So it's all up to you. It's the first thing is always about just being present with whatever is in front of you, and in knowing that there is a reason that it's there. So if you're not progressing a certain way, that's for a reason. There's something there. There's something you're not accepting. There's something that you have placed a judgment on. Often it's ourselves. Like, we think we're not good enough to be a certain level until we have done a certain amount of work, and we have this disciplinarian in our heads, this critic, this inner critic. And these are just some examples I'm throwing around. It depends. Like, when we go deeper within ourselves, we find out what that is. But really, it's just about everything in spirituality is just about releasing judgments and just being love, loving yourself fully, and just showing up fully as you are. So if you have any questions about what I said in this video, or even any other general questions, you can leave them below this video, or you can send them to me through my email, through my website, and I'll see whatever I can address generally in these general videos. So feel free to be in touch with me like that, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.